Hey up, how's it going? Welcome to Rads. This is a very dumb video. I know everyone does this on YouTube, but let's do my version. My final Premier League predictions for the rest of the season. There's roughly 9-10 games left for most teams, so it is the perfect time to just have a look and see what might end up happening. Who's going to get relegated? I mean, you know what I mean? I don't really want to be talking about Forest, even though that's what my channel revolves around. But you know what I mean? It's quite sad to talk about Forest. So could you just start winning games, lads? Starting this weekend against Palace. Now, I've been trying to work out what's the best way to approach this. And I've gone down a route that is a little bit different, but I think it kind of gives it a bit more logic. I've basically gone through and I've predicted every single game for every team for the rest of the season. I know we're not used to talking about teams with actual quality on this channel, but bear with me. Please like and subscribe to Rads. We are closing in, kind of, on 6,000 subscribers, so please help me out. Let's get there, because that would be marvellous, amazing, brilliant if you could do that. Thank you. We're going to do this in chunks as well, just to make it a bit quicker. So relegation, I'm going to do the first two teams first. Sheffield United, Burnley, they're obviously there. I do think Burnley kind of have a half chance, but I think Sheffield United are pretty much dead and buried. If we look at the two teams together, I think Sheffield United just quite clearly don't have the quality at all and anything about them to stay in the league. They've had the old good game, but they've quite literally conceded 5+ goals in their last 4 consecutive home games. I mean, I think Forest have had some bad games this season, but at least we're not Sheffield United. Whereas Burnley, I feel they've also been pretty abject a lot of the season. But it's quite different with them. I just feel they've actually got quite a young squad, so they're just a bit inexperienced. I think Burnley have a lot more potential to do well in the Premier League in the future than Sheffield United do, but I just feel it's kind of come a bit too soon for them. I'm going to put Chelsea in 8th. No. Be serious, David. 18th, I'm going to go for Luton Town. This is not just because my team are currently in the relegation zone. I just think Luton don't have quite the same quality that we technically do. And my God, do not get me wrong. We've got the quality, but we don't show it enough. We literally drew to Luton before the international break, so Luton fans have got every right to say, why are you putting us below Forest? I understand that. I could easily put us in 18th. If I wasn't a Forest fan, maybe I would. But I also, being completely unbiased, generally think we have more quality than Luton at the end of the day. And we have that extra bit of experience now in the Premier League of staying up. So I feel that definitely has got to help us out a bit, surely. If you look at Luton's running, they've got a much harder running overall. They've still got to play 3 Big Six sides all the way from home in the next 4 matches, by the way. So that, from the very get-go, could really put them on a downward spiral. Whereas Forest, hardest it gets really is Spurs and Man City. We do still have to play a few relegation rivals as well. Sheffield, Burnley and Everton are still to be played. Okay, the next 3 teams. Everton in 16th, Brentford in 15th. And Palace in 14th. So remember, I've predicted all the games in the rest of the league season. Everton, of course, are certainly not out of the relegation picture, and I don't think Brentford are either. Everton could still be up more points for all we know, so that could really shape how it goes. Their form is pretty awful. They have not won since December in the Premier League, which is shocking. It's nearly April. They haven't won in general in 8 matches, and I found out one of the craziest stats ever about Everton. They've got the 4th best defence, but the 2nd worst attack. I think I know why Everton are struggling. With Brentford, I feel their form's just not been quite as strong this season. The spike's gone from them a little bit. I just don't feel they've quite got what they had last season, if I'm honest. And it's a bit unusual. They've had a lot of injuries. Rico Henry's been out a lot of the time, which has been a massive blow for them. Obviously, Ivan Toney's missing for a lot of the season. Who would have bet on that? Yeah. Top quality entertainment. Forest have dropped an awful lot of points on winning positions, but Brentford make us look quite amateur. They've dropped 28 points on winning positions, Brentford, which is shockingly the worst in the league for that record. They've actually got quite a nice set of games left. They've only really got, as hard as it gets, Villa and Man United. The rest of them, I feel they've got a good chance of winning all of them, maybe. And Palace, obviously under Oliver Glasner, I do feel, you know, they've got more of a exciting future ahead of them. Under Roy Hodgson, it clearly wasn't working anymore. They needed some fresh ideas. Glasner's already changed it up a bit. They're playing a different formation, seemingly a different sort of style of play as well. I just feel they've actually got quite a lot of good players in this side, but again, it's just, I feel they need to refresh the squad a bit. I mean, Joel Ward, he's been their right back for the last 20 years, it feels like it. Okay, the next 3 teams then, Bournemouth in 13th, we're going to have Fulham in 12th and Brighton in 11th. That's the one that kind of shocks me a bit. I didn't think Brighton would tail off quite as much as that. Bournemouth, I think they've been very encouraging this season. They started quite slow, but they've really got into it under their new manager. I can't say his name, bear with. Alexa, who is Bournemouth's manager?
Good morning, David. AFC Bournemouth's manager is Andoni Iraola.
Him. That's a lot louder than I thought. They've been a bit iffy recently, drawing to Sheffield United, being 3-0 down in the first place against Luton was quite poor, but they've still quite clearly got that quality. That sun is really annoying. Fulham have not really been much different to last season, but they've had a lot of very good results against the big guns. They've beaten Man United, beaten Arsenal, beaten Spurs, drawn with Liverpool in the League Cup, got to the semi-finals of that tournament too. They've had a lot of big wins as well against sides at home. They've beaten West Ham 5-0, they've beaten Nottingham Forest 5-0. They're beating West Ham, Spurs, Brighton and Bournemouth all by 3 goals all at home. So that's quite impressive. They've also got the 3rd best record from clean sheets for them. So fair play to them. They've actually done pretty well. And they've got quite a nice set of fixtures left. I feel they'd be not too dissatisfied with them. Brighton, I do feel we're now kind of approaching the European area of the table. But I don't think Brighton... I think they absolutely could still get European football, which is mad that I'm putting them in 11th. But I just feel their form has been really inconsistent for pretty much all season. They've not been that good. I think they've still got some great players, but I feel they're finally starting to play catch up from selling all their best players every season. Eventually, you can only, keep going for so long with that kind of mantra and keep being successful. They've also had a lot of injuries as well. João Pedro, they got 19 goals, and they've actually got a very tough run of games left. Okay, I'm going to do the next 2 teams. Then it's a standoff who gets the final European spot. Chelsea in 10th, West Ham in 9th. Chelsea, strange season again, 2nd season in a row of well below par performances for them. Cole Palmer been their standout player, 14 goals this season, brilliant signing of course. But again, they've actually done quite well in the Cups, but another really poor performance in the league. And I do actually feel Chelsea have been quite a lot better than what they were last season, just from an outsider looking in. I feel they've been playing a lot better overall, but they've still had far too many poor results for the standards that Chelsea normally hold. And obviously we can always mention the amount of money that Chelsea has spent. Similar to Forest, it's been a big talking point for them, and they've spent an awful lot of money and wasted a lot of money. And West Ham, they're currently in 7th. The reason why I got them dropping off is it always feels to me like West Ham are a couple of games away from it being really toxic. One minute David Moyes is the saviour, the next minute he's, get out the club, you're useless, waste of space. Like when they came to the City ground, they were dreadful. The next several games since then, they've actually done really well. Also, that distraction of being in Europe, I think they could still go quite far despite playing an unbeaten team in Bayer Leverkusen. They have still got some tough games left to play, but also teams around them could be quite useful. And I like their side. I think they've got a really good team. I think they could definitely still get Europe, but I just feel something tells me they're going to drop off a bit. Okay, so I'm going to do the next 3 teams in one go. 8th place, Wolves. 7th place, Newcastle United. And 6th place, Manchester United. That's not quite what I expected. I didn't think Newcastle would get into the top 7 before I did this, but they actually have found their way into Europe still. Gary O'Neill's performed wonders at Wolves, obviously coming in. I tipped them for relegation at the start of the season. So that says everything about doing these prediction videos and how wrong they can be, so don't take it seriously. Had to sell a lot of key players as well, but they have bounced back with a vengeance. They've been incredible. They've had some inconsistent games, but they've had an amazing record against the Big Six. They've beaten Man City, they've beaten Spurs twice, they've beaten Chelsea twice. They've done incredible, and they've been playing some really good football along the way, but I just feel they've quite clearly got frailties in them, having lost Coventry the other day. That was really poor. Lost to Newcastle 3-0. I think something might hold them back slightly from getting European football, but they should be very, very pleased with 8th place. And Newcastle, despite the fact that they've got a lot of injuries, I do still feel, for some reason, they're going to get into European football. Like I said, when I initially did this before I did a calculator, I had them 9th. So the fact that they're up to 7th, I've done that table twice as well, just because I thought it was so far out. And Newcastle got 7th both times. So it's quite clearly not a fluke. I think ever since they exited the Champions League like they did, they've not been quite the same, plus the amount of injuries. Bringing in youngsters like Lewis Miley, I mean, fair play to him, but he's now injured as well. I just feel all this kind of thing adds up and, you can't compete properly. And maybe Eddie Howe isn't the future for them. So I may be painting them in a negative light, but unlike West Ham, unlike Man United in this kind of bracket of the table for Conference League and Europa League. They haven't got European football, and I feel that might, just relieve a bit of pressure on them a bit. So part of me still feels Newcastle can get it together and get into Europe. And Man United, Eric Ten Hag's always been questioned. They've got quite clearly a good team, but with a lot of loose ends in there as well. But overall, Man United, they've only lost twice in 2024, and I feel they could be on for top 4. They could still do it, but I feel it's a big ask. I feel with Villa and Tottenham, giveaway, obviously, that they're going to be in this mix. I feel those two are probably slightly ahead of them. But it always feels like Man United are just in a crisis, and despite beating Liverpool the other day, they could lose the next game, and it's like, get rid of Ten Hag. I just feel that's what it is at Man United half the time. 5th place, Aston Villa, Spurs in 4th. I had it the other way round before the table calculator. I'd love to see Villa get into the top 4 because it would just be a new team, and I feel they've been amazing all season. If they did do it, they'd fully deserve it. I don't know. I feel since about December time, Villa haven't been consistently as convincing. They drew to Sheffield United, I remember, in the last minute, and ever since then, they've still had some amazing results, do not get me wrong, but they've had quite a lot of results where they just scraped over the line. That might backfire on them. They've also got European football to contend with too. I feel they could win the Conference League as well, so that might hold them back. But I feel top 4, I just nudged the mic, is a real possibility, and I'd love to see them get it. And Spurs, even though Spurs have been really weird all season, they had an amazing start, they were unbeaten, they were title contenders for a bit, and they had a lot of injuries and they tailed off. They've found their form again, but they've still had the odd really freak result. They've lost to Wolves and they go and beat Villa 4-0. They've been a bit up and down, but I still feel Spurs, at the end of the day, have that extra bit more quality than Villa. Just only by a bit, I feel they do. And I really like what Ange Postecoglou is all about. Doesn't really change his ways at all, and that might be one of the reasons why they've been inconsistent at times. His ridiculously high line against Chelsea, for example, you're asking for trouble. They had 9 men and they were playing a high line like that, so he doesn't change his tactics at all, which in one sense I admire quite a lot. Now, this is where doing a league table calculator rather than just instinct has made this go to a whole new level, because this is not what I expected to happen. I have Manchester City winning the league title, but they're actually 3rd in my table. And that's a really risky thing to do, because do not bet against City. I just feel City always will find a way to win. They haven't lost since December, so I can't really be too critical. But I do feel City have been scraping past teams a little bit more than come to be dispatching them. And that doesn't really matter, but I just feel they've not been quite the same insane heights that they were last season. I really am struggling to justify putting Man City 3rd, but I also feel that Liverpool and Arsenal have all the minerals. Let's just get it clear, I feel all 3 of these could win the league, no doubt. So 2nd, I've got Arsenal, and 1st, I've got Liverpool. I've got to say, I feel Arsenal have been fantastic all season. I feel they've been a class above most teams. Of late, their form has just been electric. 34 goals in the last 10 games. I've only got Arsenal to lose 1 more game, which is interesting when I've not got City or Liverpool to lose another game this season. I really don't know what to say about Arsenal, because I think they could absolutely win the league title, but they could easily come 3rd, just like all of these teams. I've never known a league title race quite like this, where I could put a team 1st or 3rd and have legitimate reasons for it. So Liverpool are going to get the send-off that the media are begging for. Liverpool are going to get the send-off that Jurgen Klopp would want. As a Nottingham Forest fan, I don't particularly feel that fond about Liverpool, especially after the other week. But yeah, I've got to be completely honest here. I just feel Liverpool, they've got that drive to them. They've got a lot of injuries, yes, and they are getting a few back. Salah and Trent are going to come back, of course. But if you're still winning like they are doing with youngsters in the starting 11, as many as they have done, that's testament to them. It really is. And I just feel Liverpool have that drive to them right now. Europa League slightly less intense. They probably won't be as, obsessed with winning that like they would be if they were in the Champions League. I think any 3 of these teams could win the league. I initially had City 1st, then it became Liverpool. So, yeah, honestly, I think it's such a fascinating title race. That is my Premier League predictions for the rest of the season, with a bit of a twist. And it is pretty much exactly what I would have picked, minus a couple just based off instinct, that is. But I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit the like button, subscribe to Rads if you're new, and yes, Crystal Palace is the weekend, a massive game. I'll be there, of course, so get on the vlog if you see me. And yeah, up the Reds.